Well, students' background and needs. As future teacher for us, it is really important to know the student needs and purposes for learning the L2 because based on these, the students are going to appreciate the functions and values literacy in L2. An important factor is the age and educational background in L2 because these may influence the learning of L2. Also, it is fundamental to differentiate between L2 learners and foreign language learners because while L2 learners need and have a space for using the language, foreign language learners do not have these needs and spaces outside the classroom for using it. What happened here is that most of the time L2 learners need to use the language, maybe at school, at work, informal context, but foreign language learners do not have these opportunities, do not have these needs, and this influence in the way we teach the L2. Students' background and needs. The environment, context, and culture affects the learning process because the practice and style of writing will be affected by the place, context, and environment in which the student is. So it is important that teacher finds strategies to guide and improve students' writing skill. Could be exposing into different literature genre, a lot of practice, vocabulary, grammar, and a lot of feedback. The process approach. Students used to produce several single draft essays that are focused on linguistic accuracy. For that reason, students do more than one draft piece of writing for feedback and evaluation, and emphasis is placed on supporting students through the stages of writing: pre-writing, drafting, giving and receiving feedback, and revising. But this approach explains us is that for students, it is really difficult to do just one single draft essay in L2 because they have a lot of ideas, most of the time disorganized, so they prefer to do a lot of single draft essays than just one for we as teacher revising and provide for them the feedback. Reading and writing connections. There is a growing recognition that reading and writing are connected and that one can be learned without the other. Most of writing problems begins with reading problems. This used to happen because the activities on writing and reading most of the time are focused on make the students read and give their opinion on what was read through a text. That means they do not reflect on the reading process and do not notice their problems while reading, so that means they cannot solve these problems. For that reason, the guidance of teacher is really important and that it is necessary to know how to read for improved writing skills. What explains us here the theory is that most of the writing problems are connected with reading problems. What happens when we are reading in L2 is that we just focus on the content and the ideas of the text. For example, we are reading a text about environmental problems, so we are just focused on what we are going to find about environmental problems in this text, but we do not notice how the writer uses vocabulary, structure, and grammar, and how these make us difficult the reading process. So at the moment of writing, because we do not notice this structure, vocabulary, and grammar, and so on, we can do this when we are writing our own ideas. Writing to read. This stage led us to how writing is used as a way of interpreting a text. For example, writing to read activities as these type of exercises who ask a question before a reading. This question used to be reflective. Well, it is very common that before start a reading, in handouts we find first a question, a reflective question about the topic. For example, the reading is about abortion. Probably we are going to find a question before this reading about what do you think about abortion, if you agree, if you disagree. And most of the time, this question is solved orally. There is some exceptions who the question is solved through writing. So this is for prepare to the students for enter in context about what's going to be explained in the reading. A good activity for that is reading journal and reading response. Here the students is going to read a story and then respond by making a reflective journal entry. Alternatively, the students can respond to a reading response question like, which character did you like the best and why? Reading to write. This stage shows us how to use reading as a source for creating a text. The most common problem with this is that students used to paraphrase a lot and tend to do plagiarism because they do not know how to express their own ideas or how to use correctly a structure, or they have too many grammar mistakes. Well, what the theory is explaining us here is that reading to write is a really useful source. And it is very common to use readings for us, our students, to do essays or provide reflective text about the readings they do previously. But the problem here is that, for example, when we ask our students to do an essay, it is very common and they tend to do plagiarism because they do not know how to express their own ideas, and most of the time because they have problems with the structure and they tend to do a lot of grammar mistakes, or they paraphrase a lot. These are very common problems of L2 students, so a good solution for this is provide the students more literature genre, because if they do have variety in reading, they are going to notice how the authors use different the structure, and at the same time they're going to obtain vocabulary, grammar, and are going to be used to this new and they are going to be used to read in the L2. The role of grammar and error corrections in writing. Grammar instruction is effective in the second language classroom. However, the teaching of it generates controversy because it's complicated to draw a straight line between structure, instructions, and future performance. Because of that, it's really complicated for teachers because it seems that students do not learn and remember the correction made, and they keeping on doing the same mistakes over and over again. Well, grammar and error correction in writing is good in a way that we as future teachers are going to do writing activities in which our students are going to make a lot of grammar mistakes, and we as teachers have to correct these errors. The problem here is that sometimes in some some authors consider that this is good, but at the same time this is bad, because the student is going to be used to always keeping the same mistakes. Well, what happened here is that we provide the corrections, but the students do not study these corrections. So in the future they tend, well, it is really common for they to do the same mistakes, and this is really frustrated for us as teachers, because we have the idea that the student is not learning anything. So a really good tool for help us and help our students in this error correction problem is Grammarly. Grammarly is a writing assistant application that helps you write English texts in a clear, concise, and error-free way. So what we can find in this link is this. So here we have that Grammarly highlight the words that are incorrect and provide you some options for you to choose the better option, and also it helps you with the punctuation errors.